Daniel 11, verse 40, right, it says, and at that time, because we're talking about World War III, right, and World War III is the end of America, right? At World War III, right, in World War III is when America is going to be wiped off the face of the earth, totally wiped off the map. The Most High say, now one stone shall be standing on another, right? It's going to look like a beachfront property, right? All sand, right? This is Daniel 11 and 40 says, and at the time of the end, right, which that's the time we're in right now, we're in the time of the end, the king of the south shall push at him, right? The king of the south right here is talking about Egypt. Back in the time of Greece, that was called the Ptolemaic dynasty. The king of the south in the time of the Greeks was the Ptolemaic dynasty, right? Which is now, at the time of the end is right now, which is Egypt, right? And at the time of the end, the king of the south shall push at him, right? Which is Egypt. And the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. And he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. All right? So it says the king of the north. Who's the king of the north? The king of the north, right, is Israel right now. Back in the time of the Greeks, right, the king of the north, that was the Seleucid Empire, right, the Seleucid kingdom, right, but who's in it now? Who's in it now is the so-called Jews, right? So the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over, right? That's talking about the Arab-Israeli wars, right? Because in 1948, when those so-called Jews went in the land, all those wars down there start to jump off between them and them Arab countries, all right? Matter of fact, let's get Ezekiel 36. Well, I said the king of the north, right? And I said it's those so-called Jews that's in there right now, right? This is Ezekiel 36 and 4 says, therefore, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord, hear the word of the Lord power. Thus hath the Lord power to the mountains, and to the hills, and to the rivers, and to the valleys, and to the desolate wastes, and to the cities that are forsaken, which become a prey and derision to the residue of the heathen that are round about. Therefore, thus saith the Lord power, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which have appointed my land into their possession. So the Lord said, all Idumea. Who's Idumea? Right? Idumea, right, is really Edom. Edom is the biblical name for the so-called white man or the Caucasian race. That is Idumea. Right? It says, therefore thus saith the Lord power, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which is Edom, the so-called white man, which have appointed my land into their possession, with the joy of all their hearts, with despiteful minds to cast it out for prey. All right, now let's get back into Daniel 11 and 40. All right, as it says, right, king of the north, as I said, shall come against him like a whirlwind. That is them so-called Jews, right, who have took the Lord's land in their possession. All right. It says, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries, and he shall overflow and pass over. I said that's the Arab-Israeli wars. He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. That's what happened. He entered into our homeland. The land of Israel is our homeland. That's where we came from. That's why we had to fled that land in 70 AD. Right? We had to flee that land in 70 AD. But that's our homeland. That's where we came from. Alright? That's where we came from. Right? It says, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab and the chief children of Ammon. That's all dealing with a geographical location. Right? That's all dealing with a geographical location. That's Jordan. Today, that's called Jordan. But when you check it out, Jordan is the only Arab country over there that's at peace with Israel. Peace with them, those so-called Jews, those Khazars, those Edomites, those Amalekites who have our land in their possession. Alright? He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the country, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt. And the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his step. Right? But that's how this so-called Jews ruling over there. Right? He's ruling. And all them leaders in Saudi Arabia and so forth, who they bow down to? You have to bow down to those so-called Jews, those Khazars. Yeah? Right? It says, verse 43, but he shall have power over the treasurers of Salakia. Verse 44, but tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Tidings means a news or a report. So who's troubling those so-called Jews? Right? What's troubling those so-called Jews? Those Amalekites. It says tidings out of the north, meaning a report. Right? A report or news. Out of the east. Out of the east, that's Iran and China. Right? News or report out of China, and Iran is troubling him. Right? And out of the north, which is Russia. Right? So you got Russia, you got Iran, Russia, and China. Right? It's bothering him. Right? Therefore, he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and to utterly make away many. Right? Because that's how the Third World War is going to start. Right? Because he's going to drag America, and so-called Jews in the land of Israel is going to drag America into the Third World War. You can see what's going on right now, right? America says they're making a deal with Iran about their nuclear program. Right? Those Israelis, those Khazars, so-called Jews say, if that's the case, they're going to bomb them. You understand? So you see, who's dragging America into all these wars? It's those so-called Jews. And how are they doing it? By false flag attacks. They're doing all these things by false flag attacks. Alright, what you know about the USS Liberty? When the Israelis bombed the USS Liberty and torpedoed the ship, right? And trying to drag America into war was to fight Egypt. Who think brought down the building? Alright? Them so-called Jews in league with the government. Right? To bring down the Twin Towers, right? So they could go in the Middle East. Alright? Verse 45. And he shall plant the tabernacle of his palace between the seas of the glorious holy mountain. Yet shall he come to his end, and none shall help him. Because they're going to be destroyed in that nuclear war too. The Most High is going to cleanse that land of Israel in this Third World nuclear war. Right? Because they've polluted it. Understand? They're claiming that they're the real Jews. They say they are, right? And they're in our homeland, which is the land of Israel. They're in our homeland, right? And what they do, they turn Tel Aviv into what's called, and what they call it, the Pink City. Nothing but homosexuality and lesbianism going on there. That show you that those can't be the true people of God. What's your nationality, sister? What's your nationality? Nation? Come on. You believe in the Bible, right? Alright, according to the Bible, you're from the tribe of Levi. Nation, you're from the tribe of Levi, according to the Bible. You're the true biblical Hebrew Israelite the Bible speaks of. Did you know that? And the Bible, you already know that, right? Yeah, but when the Bible speaks of the Jews, it's talking about you. You are the real Jews. And the people in the land of Israel right now, they're not the real Jews. They stole your identity. Did you know that? I'll read something for you, right? This is Revelation 2 and 9, right?
What religion you are?
We're not a religion, it's a nationality. It's a nationality. Right? We're from the same nation. Like it says, Revelation 2 and 9, it says, I know thy works, thy tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. So God said, you know what we're going through. Right? How we are struggling and all the hardship we face every day by the job or whatever. We're being oppressed here, right? It says, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and they are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. So who's saying they're the Jews right now? So-called white men in the land of Israel. He's saying he's a Jew, right? But he's the synagogue of Satan, because you're the real Jew. Huh? No, we're actually God's children.
Yeah.
Right? Moses, right? Moses was from your tribe. Right? But because of our disobedience, because slavery, right? Our slavery is documented in the Bible. Right? God gave us laws, statutes, and commandments to follow. When we broke those laws, He punished us. What's the punishment? Slavery. Exactly. Right? So now we're in the last days right now. He's waking up these people again, right, to our true nationality, to come back to like the Hebrew Israelites, right? As these people on this side, what's going to happen? America is going to be destroyed in the Third World War. That's the time we're in right now.
Yep.
Understand? America is going to be destroyed. And the one that ignorantly called Jesus Christ, I got to touch on that one. This is what they showed you, right? But according to the Bible, that's what he looks like. You know that? This is actually an actual man who lived. His name is Caesar Borgia. He's the second son of Pope Alexander VI of Rome. Right? He came, they put him up in the 1400s or the Renaissance time period to be the image of Christ. Right? But he's not. This is a lie. This man is an actual man that lived. Right? He's a homosexual. He killed his sister's husband so he could sleep with his sister. Right? But according to the Bible, this is what he looks like. Right? Hair like lamb. Right? And there's a skin and complexion to polished brass.
That's the
Exactly. This is what he looked like. So why would they put this image up? To deceive you. To have you worshiping and praying to a white man.